Storm and Davey, thank you so much for sharing a bit, or actually quite a lot, about your respective backgrounds and what you've both seen and done, and what you were bringing to the table when Cyclone Gabrielle headed our way. Can you just tell me a little bit about your day on February 13th? I believe you'd both just returned from a major exercise in Waiouru to prepare for what was coming.
Yeah, I'll go first. We had a massive battalion rain sheet in Waiouru there, and once we finished, I think it was about 1400, we finished our rain shoot on the Sunday. There was noise coming across the comm saying, there's a massive weather event coming. And didn't think too much of it. We thought, we'll be back in lock by then, be back home. And it looks like it was heading out to sea. So, yeah, to be honest, none of us had prepped anything. We just thought, it's just a normal day up the coast, the Hawke's Bay region, so you will be right. And I got home at about 17:30 or something like that. And then because I've got logging trucks with Panpack, and they actually said to us, knock off at lunchtime, they're going to close all the forest down. So that was their SOPs and their precautionary system that they were using. So it was like, cool. Parked up, and then we got a message from Dave. Hey, you sent out a bit of a pānui to everybody saying, hey, who's available to help out, just in case. And then I said to him, yeah, brother, I'm ready, so I'm in Bayview. So just give us a yell if you need us. I'll sleep on the couch tonight, because it started to rain quite heavy. And then about, what time did you give us a call?
2:05.
Yeah.
I guess we backtracked just slightly before the 13th, because we had our bulk of our soldiers over in Waiouru. Typically what happens is that I don't normally go with them because I'm a recruiter. I'm not part of that company as such, but my heart's always with that company and always will be. And so this amazing human, Rich Davis, he's the regular force person that looks after all the part-time soldiers. He's just a good bugger. Absolutely amazing human. And in the past, we'd had the 2020 weather event. So Rich, whenever he goes away, he just says, mate, if the alarms go off, you'll be able to deal with it. Sweet. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. And this was pretty much the same, but with the add-on of, look, you've got to go to these CDM meetings. So roll on to the morning before Cyclone Gabrielle. There was a briefing at Hawke's Bay CDM, which I attended, and I felt that it was pretty detailed, and was accurate, and it was building a picture that made sense to me. We were going to expect a sea state of anywhere between 6 to 10 metre waves, high rainfall, particularly in the Ruahenes and up in the Kawikas, and also through to Turangawaewae. And there was concerns around flooding, coastal flooding. So the chatter was all the right chatter. It just wasn't at the scale of expectations. So I went to that briefing, and then straight after that, I had to go to see the sports doctor to get a cortisone injection in my right shoulder, because I'd dislocated that right shoulder so many times. I remember, and it was at the sports park in Hastings, because I was tutor at EIT there.
Oh, was that Mel Parnell?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did my GP training with her. Yeah.
And so we were just talking away, and she's like, I wonder what and I was like, yeah, it's going to be bad. And I was thinking sort of bowler, and we'd just had Cyclone Hail and the Napier floods. So that was kind of where my thinking was at. And then straight after that shot, Mel gave to me, she says, no, you're not allowed to do any physical activity for 24 hours.
Okay.
I'm like, yeah, sweet as. And then I went straight over to 5-7 Battalion and started the truck up and just made sure all our CDM stores were ready to go, good to go. And this beautiful lady, she's since passed on, rest in peace, Auntie Karen. She was there, she was helping. And then I went home and I just made sure that my house was semi-prepared.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it was completely prepared, especially if you ask my wife that.
But we didn't really know what was coming, did we?
No. And then I was just on standby call waiting for any tasks that would come through from Hawke's Bay Civil Defence. So, yeah, about 10 to 2 in the morning, I get a phone call from the controller and said, your first tasking is up the Glengarry Road, off the Napier and Taupo Road. There's a car trapped with a family in it. You need to go up there and extract them. Oh, and I had to deploy the MOG no later than 2:45 hours to the Bayview fire station.
Yep.
As soon as I heard Bayview, I was like, Storm. And straight away, you've got a picture of, okay, this task, who am I taking and why am I taking? It's because he's built for it, right? He's been there, he's done that. And we've got years of experience and trust between us. So I rang Stormy and said, mate, we're on. You need to get your ass to the Bayview fire station and just get straight into whatever briefings are happening, and I'll meet you there. I'll get the truck,
Okay.
blah, blah, blah. So I'm scrambling, and I thought, oh, man, I've got to clear my head. So I had this real quick cold shower, and I was just think, right, it's on, tick, tick, tick. And I was just going through a checklist. Yeah, I've done everything. And then I was just thinking, oh, I've got to grab my life jacket. It was hanging on the hook in the garage. And I'm trying to pack the car, and Laels, she's just in my ear, and all I'm hearing is, because I'm just, I'm in the zone of focus. Boots on, gone. Grab my life jacket, and then I just, last thing I remember saying is, Happy Valentine's.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, far out. And then I started driving down the driveway at home, and we're in a back section, and all of the front next door neighbour's stuff that's in his carport was just floating everywhere.
Yeah.
And then when I saw the lights, I couldn't see the crown in the road. And I was like, oh, man.
So you didn't even need to get out of your own driveway before you saw evidence of how bad the weather
and I was
had
like,
been.
oh man, I'm going to have to run my fat ass down to the battalion because the car's not going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was thinking, what stuff don't I take? Because I'm going to blow getting there in time. But got there, unlocked the gate, cranked the truck up, chucked everything in, and trying to defog my glasses, trying to defog the windscreen, ringing the platoon commander at the time, telling him exactly what was happening, as well as getting hold of the bosses down in Wellington to tell them that we're deploying. And then, I was out just driving, and the expressway roundabout up by Mitre 10 there, the water was like over the top of the roundabout. I was like, oh man. And the truck's already getting pushed sideways because of the wind. I'm like,
yeah, and that's not a small vehicle.
This is big. Then going along the expressway, and because of the waves and the tide, the water had backed up in the estuary, and so that was lapping across the road. And then when I got to the airport roundabout, that was halfway up the wheels of the MOG.
Yeah, that's incredible.
More. And I was like, oh man, we're in trouble.
Right.
Yeah. So get to Bayview, and I see this big handsome bear.
So Storm, tell me about getting the call from Davy and talk us through what the scenario was when you arrived at the Bayview fire station.
So Davey rang me and said, get your ass to the Bayview fire station. So I grabbed all my kit, had it all prepped. Said to my wife, I love you, I'm out of here. I'll try and keep the comms up, but just prep yourself. I didn't even have to give her any instruction.
Yeah, you didn't have to
worry. Even though she
worry.
gives me the instructions. Yeah. But that was squared away. I found it was squared. So shot down there. Once I got down to the Bayview fire station, pulled up in my ute, hopped out, and all the Bayview fireys all our eyes were wide open. And as soon as they see me rocking and army uniform, and because I knew most of them anyway, they were like, Storm, it is bad. She's bad out there, bro. We've tried to evacuate people. We can't even get that far up the road. We're going to lose our own Hilux. And I said, no, all good visual ops. And they said, just in there. So I walked through the hangars, past their truck, and made my way into the office. And then heaps of sets of eyes turned around and looked at me. And at the time, I was a corporal, and you had high-ranking firemen, police officers. Yeah. And after talking to their lads that were out there, they were saying, man, these people on the roof, we can see them, we can hear them, screaming for help. Straight away in my mind it was, there's no ifs, no buts, we're out of here. So had a quick catch up with the guys in the office, and they just wanted to, which they're right for them to do, risk assessments to make sure that's their SOP. And it was like, yeah, that's cool, but the truck's just about here and we're out of here. So you're either on the truck or you're not. And if it was me and Dave, we're gone, just us to try and save people. And Davey actually pulled in as I was talking to them. And even though it was one old Unimog, he pulled up and he just come straight over to me. Brother, what are we up to? What's the plan? I said, bro, there's people on the roof screaming for help. We're gone.
We did slow down at that point to make sure that we were squared and that we knew boundaries. and limitations. And then,
Who got into the MOG with you?
Trevor Griffin. There was Bryce Harkness. So they were 2 senior firefighters, full-time.
On the back, there was a young fireman named Josh and Bones, 2 young firefighters. And then police officer that's a local out there by the name of Mike. So Mike jumped in with us as well.
Okay.
And from there, we jumped back onto the highway out of Bayview, headed to the Napier and Taupo turn-off.
And was Moxie with you?
Moxie wasn't. He was up at Hill Road.
Okay.
Because he lives up there. So, we didn't meet Moxie until the first tree.
So you're heading towards the Taupo turn-off.
Taupo turn-off, heading there. And you could see straight away what Dave was saying. The water was pouring off the hills. And as we were driving through, it was just splashing up over the truck. Got to the turn-off, and first thing I saw was the house on the corner there, the tip of the roof. And I was blown away. I was just, holy heck, what are we going to do here? So I tried to, which I'm glad I didn't carry on. I negotiated, and I thought, we should be able to come in on the road here. And so I entered the water, and as soon as the headlights disappeared, I knew, no, she's pretty deep, backed out of that area, and then headed back towards Hill Road. And then once I got up there, there was a four-wheel drive coming the other way, so I stopped, and that's where I bumped into Rick Key. And so our main man, Rick, he was like, "Is that you, Storm, bro?" And, "Yeah, brother, who's that?" And he goes, "It's Rick." And I know, "Chair, bro." And I said, "What's it like up Hill Road?" And he goes, "Nah, you got trees down everywhere, but my chainsaw is in my ute around the corner."
And he was in bare feet.
He was in bare feet, yeah.
Middle of that storm and bare feet running around.
Shorts and a hunting top.
And I was like, who is this fella?
Yeah.
Amazing.
And I said, he goes, "Oh, my chainsaw's in my ute, bro. I just need to get my pig dogs. They at Eskdale." And I went, "Okay, bro, get on." So he jumped on the back, pulled up to his ute, grabbed all his chainsaw and that, and then we started making our way up Hill Road, come to the first obstruction, which was a tree down, and leapt straight into action in his bare feet, lopping this tree up for us, and we all pushed it out of the way, come over the top, and here's our mate Moxie walking up the hill. Walking up the hill because he could see us, because Mike was liaising with Moxie at the time, so we still had comms.
Okay.
We still had cell phone reception.
We still had cell phone reception at that stage, which was really lucky.
Yeah.
But the wind was phenomenal. So we had, whilst the tree was getting chopped up by the chainsaw, we kind of had to have spotters to make sure that other trees weren't going to come down on top of us. But we only had very limited torches and spotlights and stuff like that. So it was, that in itself was still a high risk, because the wind, you couldn't hear,
windy,
hard to stand, hard to move. And so we cleared that tree, and then we were driving along, and we actually drove over another tree,
Yeah, we did actually. Yep. We drove over another tree, so we just bumped our way over there.
Down into the school.
Yep, and then we come around the corner, and that's where Moxie was walking up going, he was near the school, so he was controlling what was there.
Okay. Who did you find at Eskdale School?
Lots of people, about 15, maybe a few more cars than 15. Chocker with pets, clothes, really scared children. Some adults were going into mild shock with it all.
Wet and cold, I think Moxie had organised all that. Going back to Moxie, he actually walked over that other tree and was helping us pull that other one out of the way, and he jumped on with us, and then we went down there. So I think Moxie had all that under control.
We did secondary checks on the mate. Bryce and the other fireys, we went round and knocked on all their windows, and we actually also scanned and checked the school. We were shouting, hello, is anyone there? But no one came back to us. Yeah, and then we did a bit of a foot recce, mate.
So you're walking down Hill Road towards State Highway 5.
Yeah. And then, man, that's when we saw the river was nearly at the school.
Yeah, and there was those 2 houses on the left,
Yep.
And they had occupants in them.
Yep. So we got them out.
Yeah.
And then, but it was just because it was, you just imagine it was still dark.
You've got limited
raining
vision
hard
with
out.
the torches and stuff.
Yelling out, but you could hear people as well.
Yeah.
Screaming for help. And
that was those people that were further down the road.
Yeah.
If you're going down Hill Road, there was that house that got absolutely decimated on the corner.
They were yelling out to us. Yeah, so that was so that was a quick assessment of, bro, what are we up to? We're going to go. Because I could see the sign on that
Yeah, we
State
could
Highway
see the
5,
sign on State Highway 5. You know, that
Yeah.
yellow sign that's got
The
the black
arrows.
arrows? We could just see a portion of that. So we're thinking, okay, yeah, this could be
Yeah.
doable.
Yep.
Yeah, so you're very keen to get into Esk Valley and start rescues
Yeah.
straight away.
Yeah, and still,
Yeah.
you know, we had this task that we were supposed to get a family cut out of a car up Glengarry Road.
Yeah.
This was stuff that we found along the
On the-
way.
On the way,
Yeah.
And it was probably meant to be that we had to go down Hill Road. Otherwise, those people would have been in...
Still, they would have been trapped. They were all
completely
day.
trapped because the trees were down and the water was rising.
So tell us about trying to get onto State Highway 5.
Bryce and Trevor Griffin, the two senior firefighters, they did a further foot recce and they come back and we had this conversation about, okay, next steps. And we made the decision, as in, I guess, the ones that wear a camo uniform made a stronger decision that, you know, we're going to do this. The only reason why? Because that man there and I trust him. So Trevor and Bryce and one of the police officers jumped on the back of the Unimog and we put the tailgate down because that's procedure when you're wading through water. And I climbed up on the roof with another policeman. Moxie, yeah. And we laid down on our stomachs and holding on to these light bars. And I was kind of thinking at the time, back to the sports doctor of, I'm not going to do anything physical for the next 24 hours.
Mm. Yeah, and here you are hanging on for dear life.
Yeah. And Stormy wound the windows down in the cab and off we went. And I remember being able to look down and see the water and the bow wave that the Mog was making, which was pretty clean and it was pretty good. And it was only sort of up to waist height, which Unimogs can handle that. And we were going along really nicely. And then all of a sudden there was just this water surge. And the water was like halfway up the windscreen of the Unimog, just like that. And then water was just filling the cab of the Mog.
Pouring into the windows. Yeah.
And at the same time, the Mog started getting pushed with the current because, you know, we've got that canvas sides and that just becomes like a big sail. So we're getting pushed off the road and it was like, oh, this is it. We're done.
But you had a good driver, I hear.
He's not bad. And then Stormy, he just slammed it in reverse to get us out of there. That saved our lives. But Moxie, he hadn't hooked his feet through the back of the canvas flap. So he sort of fell a bit off the cab. So I had to try and get him back up. And then I just remember him saying, shine the lights backwards, shine the lights. And I'd done my shoulder trying to get Moxie back on the cab. And I'm just getting pelted with water coming up the exhaust. And I mean, this is not good at all. Hey, bro.
Yeah, so Dave and Moxie were on top. I had Mike next to me. And I said to Dave, and Moxie, keep those lights on the water so we can see what's happening. And I remember seeing tanks and that floating past, and you could actually hear the river too, brother?
Yeah, man.
It was quite loud. And as that big surge of water, and because we had our windows down, started to come through the doors where the windows were down, and I thought too, oh man, this is bad. And I felt the truck wanting to float away. And the Unimog's quite big and they can handle a lot. And I just thought, shit, my hand was in the water and those Unimogs, they got a lever to go forward or reverse. So my hand was underwater, putting it into reverse, backed it straight out. And that's when I yelled out to Dave, I can't see, bro, shine those lights back. So you start up, they pointed the lights back and it just got it straight out. And then opened those doors and all the water was flowing out of the truck, left it on high idle. So that truck actually saved our lives, it being old and mechanical. Lucy. And if that truck had anything electronic with it, engine-wise, would have died or failed. So 40-year-old truck saved our lives.
So while that's going on, we've still got two senior firefighters and a policeman in the back of that Unimog that as it goes into reverse, they just get hit with this wall of water. So they're in complete darkness inside a canvas canopy, trying to hold on to chainsaws, plastic bins and bags and God knows what else. And trying to stay calm and breathe, I guess, Yeah. But if the water hadn't have gone on that back tray, we wouldn't have had the weight in the back of the truck to keep the back wheels on the ground. So it was...
Is that why you've got to have the tailgate down?
That's probably more for if you've got passengers on, so just in case something happened, they
Right.
could get out, and hence winding the windows down. So if it did go pear-shaped, we could still get out.
Okay, guys, that's pretty dramatic. And yeah, well done getting out of there. What was the situation when you got back to Eskdale School? Walk us through what happens next.
When we pulled back to the school, there was that just massive sinking feeling for me of, because we've failed, those people up Glengarry Road have died, and these people that are stuck in that house, they're going to die too. And it was just the reality of just how bad things were. But even though that was going on, your training kicks in and you're like, right, we've got to extract these people out of these vehicles or encourage them to leave their vehicles behind and get on this Uber, this military Uber, and get them to safety. And look, there were some people that decided not to do that and stay in their cars. That was pretty frustrating. So trying to stay as professional and calm, trying to relay those messages. But look, there was a lot of people that did jump on the back of the Unimog out of those cars. And we were trying to assist them as much as possible to get as many clothes or pets out of their cars because we didn't know what their destiny was going to be. We knew we had to take them to the marae, but what does that look like for them after that?
And the marae was in Marae Nui, wasn't it?
Yeah. So with the help of the firefighters, we were loading people on as empathetically and as quickly as possible. And it was complete darkness on the back of the mog, and it was all wet and the rain. And I just remember, because our girl Lucy is an old girl, the canvas flaps really badly, and so it was scaring the kids. So I was trying to do my best to keep conversation going on the back of the Unimog just to distract people, and that had some golden moments in it itself. I just struck up a conversation with this young girl that was holding this beautiful puppy. I was like, that's a beautiful puppy. What's that dog's name? I can't remember the name of the dog, sorry, Luke, but we were talking away, and that kind of stuck with me, And then I see in the paper these girls' faces, and I was like, hey, that's those people that we rescued. And then to find out that the father of those kids, he was actually ex-Air Force, and we served together. I didn't even know he was in bloody Hawke's Bay with Mr. Luke O'Connell.
And that's the other insight. I went to school with her, Katrina, so I didn't know it was her until later on. And then Davy was doing all the mahi on the back. I just had to navigate my way to the marae, and then got us there safely as best we could, because it's still windy, raining hard out, and people were afraid, and they've just lost everything.
I remember helping Katrina off the back of the Unimog, and at that stage, my understanding is that she didn't even know if Luke was still alive, and Luke didn't know if Katrina and the kids had made it out, because Luke stayed behind, to
save people,
his next door neighbour.
That's right.
He'd just had like an operation on his leg. He was in a moon boot,
trapped at the house.
Luke had to swim out. Like he used a jerry can, emptied it. It was on the back seat of his ute. And they had to swim out of the ute, get the old boy out, then swim him to a house. And from there, Luke swam out. Yeah. He's a bit of a bloody
And he's
fish,
a swimmer, isn't he?
He used to annoy the shit out of me because he couldn't really swim, and he used to tease me because I'm just a rock. And I'd be like,
his words too, Luke's words when we picked him up on the second round was, bro, I'm a good swimmer, but there was some hearty current. And I thought I was a goner. Bro, mumsy and kids are at the marae, so they're safe.
So what did you do, guys, once you dropped them at the marae? Where to from there?
We got a secondary task, which was we had to meet St. John's Ambulance on Kennedy Road, and we had to take the two St. John's people in our truck into Marae Nui for a patient, because Marae Nui had flooded, like it was knee deep in water. And that's when we knew it was, everywhere was bad. So we did that, took them back to their ambulance, and then they left. And then we drove back out to the fire station and tried to create a bit more of a game plan.
When you got back to Bayview, what time would that have been?
It was daylight. 6:30.
Yeah.
It was starting to become daylight.
And that's when we started getting hold of our higher command and people we knew in Linton in the transport department to just get them ready, get them prepared to know that we're going to need help. And then once that happened, Stormy, he was able to take a couple of radios, so we had comms, even though we still had cell phones. But bearing in mind, my cell phone got drowned in those first rescues, so the speaker wasn't working. So if I was trying to ring someone, I was just like, bit, 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 bit. So then I had to do everything by text message.
Yeah.
Stormy shot over the hill, and I stayed behind at the Bayview fire station in the ops room, just so we could start piecing together bits of the puzzle, and I could get more intel so I could start feeding back to the army, hey, look, this is how bad it is.
By the time we parted ways, it was pretty much, love you, brother. I'll see you when I see you. And
Okay.
boom, I was gone.
Don't die.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think
don't
the last
die
words
here.
were to him,
Don't die.
Don't die, bro. And
Yeah.
then I was
Wow.
gone.
Actually, don't die because there's too much paperwork. You got to put black humour in it, eh? That's just the love for each other. Yeah, yeah. And then after a while, I was like, oh, I've got to go to Faraday Street to meet the other soldiers, because I'd asked for them to come to Faraday Street if they could. So met the soldiers, unlocked, and we just finished unlocking the alarms. Power out, comms down at that stage. And then it was like, okay, guys, let's lay out some beds, some mattresses, and get this place prepared for our people that are coming back over the hill. And so then they had to go the long way via Palmerston North and then come back up through Dannyburg, Central Hawke's Bay, which actually wasn't a bad thing, because it meant that they could start building intel on what the state of those parts of the province were like on the way up, building bigger picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And tell me about arriving at the Napier fire station.
There was police, there was fire, and then we were trying to get hold of Hawke's Bay Civil Defence Emergency, and in particular the guy that set me the first task, and I just simply couldn't get hold of him. Because we weren't getting any real signals or direction from Hawke's Bay CDM, we just locked arms, fire, police, army, and we just ran the tempo of taskings off the 111 calls.
Yeah. Tell us about the 111 calls.
We just had this list. It was like an A4 bit of paper, and it had the call, the address, and what the distress was, and what priority. But when everything's red, that's like imminent priority. You've got like 3 sheets of just red. And then you're wargaming, okay, if this lady's insulin dependent and she's stuck in a roof cavity and she's 86, and then you start thinking about, oh, that's the same age as my dad.
Okay.
And you know the house because he used to fish behind it. And then you've got another 111 call, which is a family stuck on a roof and the mother is 3 months pregnant. Which one do you rescue, and how do you rescue them? And trying to take the emotion out of it. And for me, as the days moved on, it was what task is not going to kill my soldiers and what task is not going to kill our equipment, because bearing in mind we only had 1 truck. We couldn't move that truck because the Unimog's getting used to its best effect for that mob to then try and drive roads that we had no intel on when it's already saving people in
Esk Valley.
Esk Valley.
Yeah.
So it was like, we're going to commit and we're just going to put a circle around what we can do over here, and the rest of it we're going to work out with choppers or whatever else.
Yep. So you had a lot of weight on your shoulders.
I guess so, but you just go into that mode of react to what's coming in front of you, and nothing else really matters. And in fact, at some points, things really slowed down. And there was lots of clarity there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was mainly because of the experience of the firemen and the policemen that were in the room as well. Like our ops room was pretty calm, definitely in comparison to Civil Defence Emergency when I managed to get there.
Tell us about that, if you wish.
I guess at the time I was angry, disappointed, but I've had 2 years to reflect on it and take a breath and a step back and look at it through the eyes of other people. You can't blame a lot of those people that were forced into roles because civil defence emergency operation type work, that's not their primary role. They might be a librarian.
Absolutely.
They might be someone that walks around town and hands out tickets, and then they end up getting a gurney sash saying that they're a manager of logistics. And so
you had a friend in Napier City Council who that happened to, didn't you?
Yeah. So,
and what training had he had?
Well, here's the thing, right, is that in that particular instance, he was a third stringer, so had no training, but was put into that role because the one person that had the most training and experience, they were taken out, so they couldn't be part of it. Second person, same thing happens. So then you're down to your third string person that's a lighting engineer, and now he's making decisions with 30 people underneath him around what logistics and what does that look like and how do we operationalise that. And that just shows the gaps, right? And look, New Zealand as a whole, this is my belief, personal belief, we haven't committed enough funds, enough training, enough resources to our people to create depth in those critical places. And I get it, right? Because, hey, if a disaster only happens once every 50 years, why would you pay all this money out for something that may or may not occur when we've got starving tamariki and we've got methamphetamine problems and we've got social problems and all these other things. So the level of experience within that emergency control centre at that point in time did not match the scale of what was going on around it. I'll be honest, if it was me and I'd had zero training or not much training, mate, I don't think I could do half as well as what those people
what they did. Thanks for sharing those perspectives, Davy. Let's get back into the thick of it with Storm in Esk Valley.
Yeah, I got back to Eskdale School, and obviously it was light now. But as I come over the top before the school there, I was blown away just with the devastation and how fast the river had come towards the school and to the other side of the hills there. By the time I got back to the school, there was few people just sort of mincing around trying to figure out what to do. Bear in mind, people were still on their roofs. The river itself was still flowing pretty hard and still loud. And then I made another decision to try and enter the water and get as far as I could. But before then, I caught up with Brendan Burkett. Yeah, he had his digger there, and they thought, we'll just go through first with the digger, with the wheel loader, just to see how far we could get. And I think early that morning where me and Dave, Moxie and Mike got to, there was actually obstructions on the road under the water, power lines and fences. Oh. Yeah, so that's things that we didn't really see. As Brendan and Mike entered the water on their wheel loader, they actually got tangled up and amongst the power lines and they actually got stuck. So they did the best they could, plus the silt, so it was quite deep. So they actually punched their way as far as they could through. There's a lot of things that was happening in that space of time. A couple of civil defence people turned up and the surf life-saving rescue lads turned up. A lot of civvies turned up with jet boats. But I just remember as I was standing there at the water's edge, a boat comes screaming in, and it was our good mate Rick Kihi and those Māori boys, the Navy SEALs,
The Navy SEAL.
The Navy SEAL brothers, So, and because Rick, I hadn't seen him since the tree, so his main focus and his mission was to get his pig dogs. And as he did at the same time, he went back and rescued people. But the best thing with them, they gave me a clear sight of intel on what was happening down the valley and towards.
Those guys played a big role.
They did, and people look at you like, oh, you saved lives and all that, but those boys did. They're legit heroes, those fellas, and that's coming from a soldier's point of view. So as they came in and they actually explained, bro, the water's dropping. We're nearly getting stuck.
How far up the valley had they been?
They tried to get up as far as they could, but it was flowing that fast. They got their dogs and they started picking people up, holding on to trees, and like I said, when they gave us their proper intel, that sort of painted a picture in my mind, and then I could do a bit of a battle plan, think about what we're going to do next. Yeah.
Okay.
So as fast as it was flowing, it came down quite fast too. So from there, they started getting stuck in the silt. And then once Brendan and Mike had pushed like quite a fair way up for me to get through, I mean, get on, let's go.
Yeah, okay.
So that's when we just deployed straight away on their morgue again and got up to the Taupo Road. And then the next rescue was getting a mum and her 2 kids off the roof of a house there. And that's where we were wading through the water. We're still at around waist height. And then, and then her story was phenomenal. How...
Where was this house stored?
It was next to I think it was a strawberry...
Donald Crosby's
Yeah.
place.
So they were next door to them. And
that's at the intersection of Hill Road.
Yeah, at the intersection of Hill Road.
Yeah.
And then she was telling me that all night could hear the house creaking, had her 2 kids were there, not knowing what was going to happen, yelling out for help. And that plays on your mind as a parent, as well. And then that's when I was saying that the kids were more happy to go for a ride on the Unimog. That was pretty awesome because that gave me the mana and the will to just keep going.
And I presume the point of drop-off for you once you'd rescued someone was at the school?
Yep, we were ferrying people back to the school.
And who was at the school to meet them?
Just locals and stuff.
Okay.
Yep, all the locals. I can't remember seeing any paramedics or other police because they were, all those boys, so Moxie and all them had actually by foot started patrolling up the road, heading north to search for people because, like I said, the river come down quite quick. And it actually had split into 2, the river. So you had the main Eskdale River, and then it was running back across State Highway 5 and then heading towards the Napier Taupo turn-off. So it was each side of the road. And
followed the railway tracks.
Yeah, followed the railway tracks and then crossed the road there and then into the farmland and near the hill.
Yeah.
So with those houses there along the side of the hill, they were like, man, we got to search those too. So my sector was to focus on the junction of Hill Road, State Highway 5, and back towards Napier. And the other boys, their team was bigger, so they just carried on heading up north.
Who was in the other team?
Moxie was sort of in charge of that team.
Yeah, okay.
And then a couple other Fiends boys, all the surf life-saving boys, they had to ditch their boats. But in that space of time, when we got back to the school, that's where we picked up Luke O'Connell.
Okay.
And Luke was saying to me, he was like, bro, I'm a good swimmer, but man, that was pretty hard out. So, but it was good to see him because, like I was saying, these are people we know. And that's the thing you start thinking of, the families are split. They don't know whether their loved ones are alive or gone.
Yeah.
And
of course, by then there were no comms for people to establish that.
I couldn't make comms with Dave or any of the other East Coast platoon lads.
Yeah.
So I was just pretty much on my own.
Yeah.
And then from there, a young girl come running up to the truck and it was actually Phil and Pam Nichols' daughter-in-law. And she said to me, hey, Mum and Dad are trapped in the house. And I was like, okay, sweet, you all right? She was like, yep. I said, well, you've made it this far on foot. So, sweet, get to the school and wait there. I'll shoot down there now and see if I can help. And because of the silt was all over the place and it was like massive sand dunes, it was hard to pick what was soft and what was hard. And I ended up getting the mog stuck. So then Burka boys come back and rescued me. So thank you to them. They never let me live it down either. Yeah. So, so they sort of gave me a bit of stick about that. Yeah. But BJ was a police officer too. So he was actually our liaison officer between the police and whatever, machinery. So, he's a top man.
Yeah, he is.
Brendan. So, and his brother Shane. So Shane actually helped us out in the future tasking. So from there, the boys managed to cut a track for me, got to Phil and Pam's house, and I just remember seeing a transporter trailer that was there that had a house on it. Man, that's probably about 40 ton, but it was just picked up and just chucked into the side of the railway track. So it was on its side, actually wedged into the track. And I was like, where's the house? Anyway, I managed to climb over that trailer and on foot where I could to get to Phil and Pam, and I see old poor Phil was trying to make his way through the silt, and his main concern was his wife, but she's still inside. Well, here, mate, well, here. just tell me where to go. You want to carry on back to the truck? He was like, okay, yep. So he's tried to make his way back, but then changed his mind, because it's his loved one. And you're trying to direct and organize, but then you go, mate, if you come, then I've got to stop what I'm doing to help you. But he came anyway, just, that's what humans do. And this is where it got sort of tricky for me because, I'm not a little skinny dude. I got so far and I thought, oh, hey, that looks pretty hard. And as soon as I jumped in the silt, man, it sunk. I went up to my chest. And I was lucky Davy gave me his life jacket because if I didn't have it, I would have drowned, I would have died. And I was trying to get myself out. And the only way I could was to just exhale and lay back and then try and shimmy my way out of the silt. Because every time you moved, you were sucking you in. And as I was trying to yank my leg out, because I got a bit of a bad left knee and I felt a pop. And I went, oh, man, here we go. And then it popped back in.
Okay.
Yeah. And then from there, I saw Pam and there was 2 logging trucks parked up to the shed. And that gave you a quick insight too on how high the silt was because the trailers were on the back of those trucks, but the silt was up to the trailer. Pam was sort of holding on to the bolster onto the trailer itself, going, oh, you're all right, because I managed to get out, exhausted all my energy just to move like 5 meters. And then Pam said, are you okay? And I went, no. No, we're not going that way, and I sort of figured out, man, you got to move fast over the silt because it's crusty on top. As soon as you stop, you'll sink.
Sure.
And at the same time, as I was gathering my thoughts and my breath, I said to Pam, right, we need to move fast. And she was like, oh, hang on, here's a rabbit. Here's some other stuff we need to take. Pets, yeah. Yes. And I was like, trying not to be mean, but I was like, okay then. And then the other boys turned up, some of the other civvy guys turned up. I went, brothers, you need to take this. I need to get her across because I'm still gasping for air. And then I said to Pam, you need to move fast, Pam. We're going to sink. And she was like, yep, no worries. But it was just, we were just sinking every time we took a step. Man, that rescue felt like hours just to get them to a bit of an area where it was solid. By the time we got them to the Unimog, everyone was buggered. The other 2 volunteer firefighters. I had another Fens guy, ex-Air Force guy turn up, Andrew, yep.
And who were the volunteer firefighters that were with you at that point?
Josh and Bones. Yeah, those 2 boys there, they were Bayview Fire Station, and so they were part of my team.
Sure.
And then a ute, old Hilux ute, turned up, and a soldier jumped out, which was James King, one of the army boys. So Lance Corporal King turned up, and I said to James, are you guys here, bro? And he was like, yep, we just turned up. And that was quite emotional because it was like, shit, it's been a long day and, I've been by myself. And so it was good to see James and Lance Corporal Harley Ride turned up. So James jumped on the Mog and started to ferry everyone back. And then Harley ended up joining my team, another East Coast Battalion boy. So another new face. And I said to the lads, I said, look, we need to go across there. So we need to walk through all the silt again.
There was a river. You were going to cross
so
the
this
river,
was the
weren't
second river. So there, how I was saying, it's split into 2. So, and it was still flowing quite fast. And I was covered in head to toe in silt. It's in the undies and the socks and the boots.
Yeah.
And I said to the lads, let's go. And my 2 firefighter mates, they had been up for over 24 hours or more. And those poor buggers were burnt out and mentally and physically drained. I just pretty much, boys, stay on the road. Me, Harley, and Andrew, the Fens ex-Air Force guy, will go. So we ended up pushing our way through the silt, and then we had a quick visualization on the houses that were in the area. One of them was ripped in half. The other one was completely gone, and it looked like a plane had crashed. There was just wreckage everywhere. And then the 2 houses we focused on across the second part of the river now, it's formed into 2. I said to Harley, bro, we need to jump in over here. We jumped back in the water, and it was up to the chest, and it was flowing quite fast. And then we actually seen some people in one of the 3-storied houses. And I said to them, I said, hey, my name's Storm Harrison. I'm with the New Zealand Defence Force. We're here to rescue you. And then they wanted to go to Puketapu. And I was like, no, we'll take you back to the school and then you'll make your way to the fire station. And from there, if they were safe there, stay where you are.
They were.
Oh, yeah, oh, sweet as. We'll just carry on then.
Yeah.
And but the old fella yelled, he goes, watch out, there's a fence in there, water somewhere.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
I was like,
sure.
nah, cheers, mate. So he gave us a bit of intel on that
Yeah.
too. So I said, nah, thanks, mate. So we jumped back in the water and then we found the fence and we managed to climb over. And then the river started to push me and Harley. And we had a rope tied up to, Andrew had a rope. So as we were floating down the river, he was holding the rope just in case one of us went under and he could pull us out. One at a time, and once one of us made it across to the other side, the other fella did too. But I think the best thing for me was being in that river, getting rid of all that silt.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Even though what was ever in that river might have been even more polluted, but it was like getting rid of all the silt was amazing.
Okay, yeah.
But this was probably the hardest task. Was I said to Harley, I said, look, bro, I've dealt with bodies before. I'll go first because this is where we had to search for people. Take my head off to my mate. He was like, I got your back, brother. I'm here.
Okay.
And then I was just lucky that as high as the river came up, the doors were quite soft. So it was easy to breach. So like I said, I'm not a little skinny dude. So a whole 130 kilo of Māori just running through the door, smashing them open, and they were just actually dropping off at the base and then just searching, yelling out. One of the houses, man, it was just, everything was upside down. Even the freezer was just full of silt. It must have been that powerful because it blew half the wall out of the house out. I said to Harley, man, we got to just think about the structure because the case doesn't collapse on us. So we did the best we could to look, and then nobody was in there. Not that we could see, whether they were under the silt or not. That played on your mind. And then next house, and then we seen some people walk down from the hill, and they were like, oh, no, that's our house. Everyone's safe. We're up the hill. So I could check those houses off. So me and my mate jumped in the river, washed all the silt off again. But at the same time, there was stuff hitting us in the water. You just think, man, what is that? What's that touching me? And it was either slash or something, and you just didn't know what it was. And so that was playing on your mind.
Quite dangerous.
Yeah, it was.
You were just dealing with quite deep, fast-flowing water, weren't you?
Yeah. So you had to, like I said, you had to adapt and just deal with whatever was in front of you. So me and Harley got out, and then it was House 101 that we had to search. So when I got there, I had, because Bones gave me his radio, his fiery radio, and I yelled out, I said, name the numbers of the houses are clear, so they could mark them off on their map. Went to 101, I said, man, this house is gone completely.
Yeah.
The roof was wrapped around the tree down the track there. The car's there, searched the car, nothing there. Was a little black V'd up. And went to the next house, and that was completely ripped in half. For me, it was probably, I've deployed all over the place and seen some out of it stuff, but this here was home, just to see your mates or your whānau or your friends, family, places just destroyed in a heartbeat. Everything's gone. We even saw personal belongings scattered along the way, but you couldn't get too emotional fixed. You just had to keep moving.
Yeah, must have been hard.
So as we were checking the houses off, there was another place we went to that was on the other side, so we're moving back towards the school. And the rest of the East Coast company boys from 5-7 Battalion turned up, so I was mean. So it was hugs all around. Good to see you, brothers. Right, what have you done? So back into another bit of a battle plan. I have to make a shout out to Campbell Johnson. He's a captain now in the army, and Toddy Rogers. So those were two boys I'd seen. And then James King turned back up. I think one thing for me was I couldn't make comms with Dave. So I didn't know where Davy was. So that was on my mind too. And
it was on my mind too.
Yeah. So not really thinking about your own safety, just thinking about everyone else, especially when you're looking after everyone and trying to be in charge. And then I remember we went to a house that was near the railway tracks, and the silt was so high you could just walk along the ground and you're walking up onto the roof. Man, you just didn't even know if anyone was in there buried because, it was so high. It was only like inches off the roof before we could see. So the army has what they call like your method of entry or MOE kit. We had this thing called a hulubar. It's like a bit of an axe and a crowbar.
Okay.
So I ended up smashing the roof open to peel the tin open just to yell out if anybody was in there to see if anyone was alive or, and then wasn't until about, I think it was just after lunchtime, everyone met back at the school. We had a quick debrief on what houses we had cleared. And then we had to make our way back to the fire station. And I remember I got back to the fire station, might have been about 1500, 3 o'clock, and we're outside the pub there. Man, I just collapsed on the ground. I was that emotional, mentally, physically wrecked, and just trying to think, like, what's next, sitting by a tree there, and all our teams accounted for was the main thing. And then we actually got a call to go back into the valley to go and search 101 again. So that's what we did, and to look for Susan. And then, move the story from there.
Yeah.
So.
You touched on the emotional side of it and how immense that was, especially as this deployment was on your home turf, your Turangawaewae. How did you balance the emotional impacts with the need to be able to carry on sort of operating effectively? And I guess really that's a question for,
I think
both of you.
I think for soldiers, because of the coursing we do to be commanders, they put you under immense pressure.
Yeah.
And most of our courses are all combat orientated, but you have to switch off. They teach you how to switch off, focus on the task ahead, whether you agree with it or not, got to keep going. And I think that was the main one. So knowing that this was our whenua, our area, that just gave us more motivation to get stuck in and go hard. And us being reserves as well just makes it a bit more personal. And then I was getting briefings from some of the CDM, that asked, where's the army representative? And I'd go in and have a brief with them, and then sort of ask what else we could do, what our capabilities which is the good old one Unimog at the time.
Yeah, right. Were the CDM people at the Bayview
Fire Station to start with? That's where most of the taskings were coming.
Sure.
But I think they were just checking off, have we been there? We've been there. So in this space of time, I didn't even know about Pakawhai, Pukitapu, even Whiranaki.
Yep.
And that's when we heard about Little Ivy. And then when I started to piece the timeline together, which gutted me more because we were in that vicinity, and you're trying to do the best you can, and then you think, man, I could have got over there, but
you didn't have a crystal ball.
Nah. So and that's what I mean as a soldier's point of view. Despite what we've done overseas and it is emotional and it is hard. You just think, I wish I could have done better, but we did what the best we could. Yeah.
You did amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks, Storm. So Dave, Storm's just been telling us about how he managed to balance the emotional impacts of that day and the days and weeks that followed with the capacity to continue operating effectively, given that it's your home turf, which made it quite a different deployment for both of you. What would you like to share with us about that?
Yeah, it was hard in the fact that it was home. You've got all these childhood memories of the Esk Valley, or particularly out at Pukitapu. We used to push bike from Hastings out to Pukitapu, spend the whole day there fishing, jumping off the banks into the river there, and Pakawhai. There was another place that really hit home to me going through there. You'd be like, geez, we used to fish Tutaikuri Waimate. And to have such a monster come through and wreck our home soil was pretty hard to look at. And it became a motivator for me pretty real early on in the fact that, hey, we're here to do a job on behalf of the Defence Force, but it's our home soil. Yeah, there was some parts to it when I was in the control centre at the fire station on Taradale Road, and you're given a list of those priority 111 calls, and then you know the roads, you know some of the families, you know some of the people, and you have to take that emotion out of knowing them And once again, going back to a real cold thought process of what job can I do that's going to save people, that isn't going to kill my soldiers and isn't going to kill our resource. And a little bit different for myself in the fact that I'm the commander or incident controller on the ground for the whole of our Army people, Defence Force people. So then you have these two big words, you're responsible and you're accountable.
Okay.
Having Stormy in Esk Valley doing what he was doing, and I had no communications with him whatsoever, I went into the control centre and I was trying to grab a radio off one of the guys just so I could connect them with Storm, but that was kind of highly frustrating because minimal resource. So I was like, oh, he'll be fine. Because at that stage, there was some other experience moving into the valley. So it was like, okay, we're good here. I'm not going to add any value. And that's when I hitchhiked back to the fire station in Taradale Road in Napier.
Sure. And then at some point, the comms between you were somehow re-established because Storm was beginning to feed back the intel from the valley to you that then you could feed up the command chain?
That was directly from the Bayview fire station, coming straight back into the fire station at Taradale Road, because by then they'd set up a big command centre outside in the car park. That's when we were starting to get pictures up on the screen and build a map. And so then I was in more contact with the local soldiers, 5-7 Battalion, just relaying what was happening on the ground more often. Along with that, also liaising with higher headquarters of the camp in Palmerston North and establishing exactly what resources we need and personnel. And it became very apparent in my plan that I needed to split my resources in case all the bridges went out. So my plan was that we would set up another command team in Hastings that would basically look after anything Hastings south or as far west as we could push, because we didn't know if culverts were out, we didn't know if bridges were out or whatever.
Those bridges were vulnerable too.
Oh, highly vulnerable.
Yeah.
Highly vulnerable. And then at the same time, trying to get hold of our soldiers that were coming home via Palmerston North and getting them to stop in Dannyvirk to build a picture, Waipawa, or Tani.
Yes.
So we were feeding in intel as quick as we could and trying to get our 5-7 Battalion, all of our soldiers back home to Napier.
They arrived back here on the 14th or the 15th.
Oh, God.
Might have been later that afternoon.
Yeah, it was late. Yeah. It was late afternoon. And that was a great feeling.
And they had their own battle too, because obviously they were driving through some of the aftermath of Waipawa.
Yes.
They weren't sure if they were going to get across the Tuki Bridge.
Yeah.
It was pretty dodgy, but hey, who dares wins, eh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Davy. Both of you have touched on the fact that as things were unfolding on the morning and even probably into the early afternoon, that, to start with, none of us realised the scale of it. Can you remember where you were and how you felt when you began to hear about the way that other pockets of Hawke's Bay had been similarly affected?
I was at the Taradale Road fire station with the police officers that lifted the family of Ivy off the roof, and that was the control room went pretty quiet. Yeah, there was quite a few moments like that where even though you're sitting at a computer or whatever and you're gaining that intel, it doesn't mean to say that you don't hurt from hearing what's coming in. And I think a lot of that is because you kind of feel helpless, even though you're in a position where you're trying to dedicate resources or control resources, people, personnel, etc., etc. You still feel like you want to be out there and physically helping, but you've got to remove yourself out of that pretty quickly and concentrate on what you're doing is just as meaningful.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess you've got to somehow compartmentalise between what is within your control and what's beyond your control.
Yeah, 100%. And that was happening on micro moment after micro moment. You know, in sport, you talk about micro moments for there's hundreds of those.
Yeah. Storm, whereabouts were you, or can you remember hearing for the first time about how widespread the devastation was?
Yeah. When I got back to when I was at the Bayview pub, sitting there when everyone was sort of gathering their thoughts, that's when I came across our team. And then all the boys were just, dumbfounded, like, hey, like with Pakawhai and Puketapu and Whirinaki. And because we were already in Whirinaki or in that area, Bayview, our task quickly changed to we need to try and get out there.
Okay.
And we thought, other people will have those other areas covered, which they did. So, that's when I found out, was that late that afternoon. And, it was like, what the hell? And I assumed too that it was like early in the morning, but no, it was later, about 7, 8 o'clock.
I had thought until really pretty recently that the only place that had to contend with raging floodwaters in the dark was Esk Valley, but actually Dartmoor Valley.
Dartmoor too.
Dartmoor had the same.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they did.
When I heard about those areas, that it was that afternoon, late that afternoon.
Sure.
Yeah.
You'd collapsed under a tree outside the Bayview pub somewhere, absolutely physically and emotionally drained. And then...
Then from there, it was like, okay, brothers, we need to go and grab what we need. And we're out of here again. So we re-kitted and we were back into it.
So that's when you came back to Faraday Street and I met you there. It was good to see you. And Lucy, make sure our truck's good. I remember we had to give her a bit of a helping hand, because she sucked through a bit of diesel bug into the filters.
So we got a quick field service.
Yeah. Andy McCrory worked his magic.
Changed their blood, make sure she was good to go. And
okay.
But at that stage, we were on jerrycan diesel, which came with its own challenges, because I knew that we had more vehicles coming, more personnel, where we're going to house all these people, all of those types of logistical challenges.
Did you then go out to Whirinaki together, or did you remain in town,
I remained
Dave,
in
and
town.
Storm went out to Whirinaki?
Yeah,
so we restocked everything we needed to, and then boosted out there, and it was still sort of daylight, but then that house I was talking about that was on the back of the trailer was now in the Whirinaki area. And so it obviously had washed a couple of clicks down the road, and again, it just told you how high the river was and how fast it was flowing. So even, and it actually was still in one piece. It wasn't broken up or anything. But and then it was making a way through the road where cars and that had been swept up onto the road. And because I have logging trucks at Penpack, I thought I'll go in there and have a look and check the mill out, because I heard rumours that it had been hit pretty hard. And
remember we heard it explode?
Yeah, people said they heard, I think it was a power station.
It would have been the substation.
Yeah, power station.
That was a big boom.
What time was that?
We were at the Bayview Fire Station about to deploy, our first deployment out over the hill. So that would have to be round about the 3 o'clock mark. And there was just this earth-shuddering boom that we could hear at the fire station over the wind, which was crazy.
Which was insane. At 3 o'clock in the morning, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it just shows.
And that's what other people were saying too, like they heard a massive explosion. Yeah.
So you get to Penpack. What was the situation at Penpack?
Got to Penpack and saw where the water was still trapped inside the mill. I got up to as far as I could to the security hut, and even then I was like, holy hell, it was just, water was that high, just the buildings, everything was underwater.
How high was it?
It's probably, was up over the windows on the building, so not far from the roof, so it was over my head.
Wow.
Would have been over my head. Yeah.
God, at 3 in the afternoon? 4,
well, probably a bit later, and then, so it was still semi-daylight, and then I just imagined all my mates' trucks, because everyone had parked at the mill, and it was the next day I saw photos of one of the boys, Thomas Hornblow's one, sitting in the water, and, I was just, this fella's livelihood's gone in the instant.
Yeah. And those trucks are worth a lot of money, right?
Yeah. There was a couple of brand new ones there, like 700 green's worth, just completely written off. And despite everything else that happened within the mill itself, it was just lucky that no one actually drowned there. So across from the mill, I think it was Whirinaki Road itself, everyone along there was safe. It was just down in the low parts where the river was. That's where they got hit, all the new homes.
Yes.
And then we started to formulate a plan on we need to try and carry on up State Highway 2. But then we probably only got 100 metres past the mill, and even that was underwater. Timber, log,
all over the road.
Everything that came from the log yard and the sawmill was all up over the road. One of the boys has his logging trucks parked in the paddock, and there were logs sitting on top of his roof. Yeah, but the only way he could get through was on a mog. So good old Lucy got us to Tongoe, and then even there, devastating.
Okay. Did you get up to Tongoe on the first day?
No, the second day. So we ended up having to push back to headquarters, Army headquarters, and just liaising with Davy and everyone, like getting that map sorted on where we could go and marking our routes and that. The rest of the Army or New Zealand Defence Force started to turn up. So taskings were going out to everybody in the region for military. But our main focus then we were tasked with was trying to get to Tūtera. So we ended up being like a mobile recon, just assessing the road tracks, and just because of my knowledge from the forestry, knowing which way we could go.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Local knowledge.
Yeah, was key. And that helped immensely with the regular force.
Yes.
Coming from Linton, the guys didn't know the area that well, so they actually needed us. We were the tip of the spear.
Yeah, right.
Battalion.
Absolutely. And especially being in forestry, that's next level local knowledge, right? Like most locals aren't going to have...
And that's where we were lucky. And then not only that, talking to some of the civilian boys as well in the forest, and we managed to get comms to them and, hey man, which way can we go? Have you logged through here yet? Go through this way through the forest gates. And they should link you up to that road. So it was like just everyone coming together.
Yep.
And like a lot of fellas I knew as well, a lot of forestry boys and local guys that helped me and the military out immensely. I take my hat off to them. You know.
I think Stormy's being a bit too humble about this whole thing. Like, he coordinated that whole thing because of the networks and people that are in the logging. So when they know Stormy's name's getting mentioned, they react and they go and do it. And he was a true connector, and no one else could have done that. No one else.
No, it was all of us, man.
But not from a soldier's point of view. You know what I'm saying, bro? Like, we could have had another commander, but they wouldn't have had the trust, that instant trust. And you've got to also bear in mind that this man, his income had just blown up with Pac Mill. So then you've got a fella that's out there saving lives and giving it his all with not knowing how the hell he's going to pay his mortgage.
Like thousands of others across Hawke's Bay, Storm has just had the rug pulled out from beneath him. But his focus remains on the escalating response to Cyclone Gabrielle. Hear more about this next week as Storm and Davey conclude their story.